Hello everyone, Shannon Guss here getting you ready for our Australian Survivor V World pre-season coverage. When this season was announced last year, Rob and I had a reaction podcast, and in April this year we got the full cast and Mike and I had an initial reaction podcast to that. But now, as promised for this pre-season, we will be doing one podcast per player for all 14 players of this iconic cast, which we're so excited to do on what we're calling Australian Survivor World Tour. So what this is going to be is every 2 days from now, we are going to release a podcast. And the hope is that wherever you fall on your global survivor journey, that these podcasts will make sense to you. If you don't know these players, we hope it's a great introduction to their reality TV history and experience. If you do know them, we hope that it's an assessment of their game so far and their history on the show. And we'll also be looking at how they're placed going into the season, what their relationships are, and how we think they will do. Every player will have an expert who has deep dived their journeys, who will be with me to talk about these players. So that'll be dropping every 2 days. The issue is we do not have a premiere date yet. We are, tentatively working towards an August premiere date. So hoping that that works out with this. But the scheduling has been kind of all over the place. You'll even hear in this podcast, I think we say like Big Brother's about to start. Obviously, Big Brother has started. I apologize for any of the confusion around some of the plugs and the scheduling in these podcasts. But basically just subscribe to the We Know Global Survivor feed. Follow me at Shannon Gates so you don't miss any of that. Plus, they'll just be rolling out every 2 days. And that's how we're kind of at least starting this pre-season coverage for a premiere date that will happen at a point. So today, we're starting with Cirie. Had to start with Cirie with Taran Armstrong, who is my guest, my expert for Cirie. And yeah, wherever you are, if you've never met Cirie, you're in for a treat. But we're hoping to introduce you to her. If you obviously know everything about Cirie's games, then we're going to be looking back at that with a critical eye, a very positive critical eye, but we're looking back at everyone's reality TV history, and we are looking forward to how they'll do on Australian Survivor V World. So yeah, everyone from the Quebec player cast who you might not know, I'm currently in the middle of that season, to some of the heavy hitters from US Survivor, Australian Survivor. We have got it all through this preseason. So thank you for following along. Hope you enjoy this series, and I will leave you with my podcast with Taran. Bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor V World. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, kicking off some pre-season coverage of Australia V World, Australia versus the world, this landmark season that is coming up at some point, and we have 14 players we desperately need to talk about. So we'll be breaking down every single player. If you know them, if you don't know them, this is going to be your go-to space for that player. And to talk about our very first player here today, I have the wonderful Taran Armstrong. Taran, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, well, this first person, I should say, we'll say it from the get-go. We're starting with my all-time favorite player of all time. Had to bring out the Cirie cap, which has clearly not been tried on or closed in a year and a half. But Cirie Fields, this hat does not fit me. I will wear it for the whole podcast. Cirie Fields is my favorite player of all time. We're going to talk about her today, and I thought that Taran would be such a great guest. He is the Big Brother expert for RHAP, and I think just like in the world. And Cirie made the decision a year and a half ago to go, well, it was more like 2 years ago, but by the time she ended, it was like a year and a half ago, to go on Big Brother. So I watched Big Brother, covered it in something that at the time we called the Cirie cap. Has my head gotten smaller? What is happening right now? And so I'm wearing my Cirie cap. And we're going to talk about Cirie. But Taran, how are you feeling about Cirie being on Australian Survivor V the World?
I think it's super interesting because I watched Cirie play Survivor like 5 times. And then I saw her on Big Brother. And it's such a different experience to watch a player on Big Brother because there are live feeds. You can see them live in the moment, day to day, as they play the game. You're not reliant on an edit to see like how they play the game. And my perspective of Cirie and how she plays the game was changed pretty significantly. Not in like a bad negative way, but just in terms of like, I feel like I got a much better sense of what it might be like to actually play with her on the island or something along those lines. And certainly I'm sure she's going to play differently on Survivor than she does on Big Brother. But what was interesting about her on Big Brother was that she played it sort of like it was Survivor,
Yeah.
in that Big Brother is like a 100-day marathon, and Survivor is currently in the US like a 23-day sprint. And so
26, but yeah.
close enough.
You can't take 3 days with them, okay? That's like a quarter of the season. Like, give them their days.
So I'm super curious to watch Cirie now play Survivor, having seen her play Big Brother, and the ways in which I might interpret the things that she's doing differently than I would have previously.
Okay, I'm super excited about all of this. We a little bit of housekeeping about what's happening because this is the first one. We're going to be doing one podcast per player with different people talking as experts on each player, which is actually how I got my start in podcasting. I was the Debbie expert on Survivor Game Changers once upon a time, so has a special place in my heart. And I really want, like, I'm aware of the fact that in the listenership of this podcast and the people viewing AUV World, it's a very disparate knowledge base. I'm sure we have US Survivor viewers who've never seen Australian Survivor who are watching for these like 3 US legends. I know that we might have Australian fans who don't even know who like a Cirie or a Parvati or a Tony are. So we want to kind of give that introduction also to the other internationals. I'm currently making my way through Survivor Quebec, 67 episodes, and I am almost a quarter of the way through. So we're going to keep this one on lock until I think it'll be out. When it's out, you guys will know. But we got Taran before he gets really busy with Big Brother. This will come out kind of like through July into early August. When does the season start? We don't know. Will we have to ramp it up and start releasing them every day? Maybe. But I've kind of always assumed around August. So that's the current hope and the current scheduling of these podcasts. But I'm really excited to talk about Cirie and to start with Cirie because when she was on Big Brother and I watched her for like 100 days, or what felt like 1,000 days, I think, for her and for me. I think what she said, to quote her, not verbatim, but she did say something like, I would rather starve on that island show, right? And now at the first available opportunity, she's doing it twice. Like she really put her money where her mouth is to go on 50 and AUV World to immediately starve on that island show, even like across to us in Australian Survivor. I want to say firstly, Cirie, like without being hyperbolic, Cirie playing Australian Survivor, just simply the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm so excited that she's going to be on like the show that like on my beat, like what a wonderful thing, and on my beach in Samoa. And I'm super excited. But if people have never heard of Cirie, if there's people who are listening to this podcast who are Australian Survivor fans and they don't know Cirie, 4 seasons of Australian Survivor, the Traitors, which, spoiler alert, she won as a traitor from the get-go, which is very difficult. She was amazing. And Big Brother. She has a lot of reality TV under her belt. What do you think people should know about Cirie from the get-go?
I mean, Cirie has a long history of being on reality TV at this point. I would say if you count like the live feeds, she has, I would say, like by far the most amount of like actual content to watch. If you were trying to see everything she did, it's actually impossible because the live feeds aren't. It's going to be hard to find recordings of the live feeds, and nobody's going to spend 100 days straight watching old live feeds. So it goes back quite a while. She was originally on Survivor Panama, season 12. Which was a season that was split into like
interesting versus not interesting. Oh, right. I thought you were gonna that's true as well. Yes, it was young men versus young women versus old men versus old women. So Cirie was, I think, was she 35?
She was 35, yeah.
Yeah, Melinda was 32. Yeah, I'm 32.
Yes, Melinda's 30.
Yeah, I'm 32. Yeah. Yeah, I've never enjoyed that. She was on the old woman. That is so insulting. I'm sorry. Yeah. Look, firstly, there should not be an old woman tribe. Obviously, anyway. And she's 35, but Melinda was 32. Mm-hmm. When I turned 32 this year, that was very much on my mind. And she didn't like being on the older woman tribe. But yeah, and that theme didn't go for long though.
It didn't. But basically she faced I think like 1 vote in this format. Yeah. And I remember at the time being impressed with her right away because she, and this is to my memory, I haven't rewatched this recently, but like she was a top candidate to be voted out because she was not contributing very much in the challenge. And she managed to kind of like turn that around and gain enough control of the tribe to survive that very small like 4-person vote, and then held on until there was like some sort of swap situation very quickly,
The next episode,
and then really established herself in the game and managed to like surprise everyone, because the whole thing was that Cirie had basically no experience in the wilderness, that she was just a fan on the couch being like, oh, I would like to play that game. And so Jeff always liked to say that she got off the couch, and she went and she played the game. And so like, especially back then, this is season 12. So this is what, like 2006.
Yeah.
Like the concept of Survivor is still very heavily connected to like
Surviving. Yeah.
wilderness. And so the idea that somebody like Cirie could come out, an older woman at 35, could come out and face the wilderness, and find success in a social game, in a strategic game, and make it so far and have a chance to potentially win was kind of groundbreaking at the time. A lot of winners of Survivor, especially then, were like young, fit people a lot of the time. Like Tina was super fit, and everybody thought Colby should have won at the whole thing. But Cirie really kind of broke that mold and really stood out in that way. And so she ends up coming back and making another deep run. And already in just like 2 seasons, she has a couple of like massively legendary plays to her name. She helps talk somebody out of their own immunity idol that they won. She sets up the classic 3-2-1 vote that I'm sure Shannon has either talked about or would love to talk about right now. And then just continues to just do well almost every time she goes out and plays. She just keeps falling short for one reason or another, whether it's challenge performance or a random twist that comes and screws her, or another random twist that comes and screws her, or another random twist that comes and screws her.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, I think that when I look back at Cirie on reality television, there are kind of these like pillars of her as a character. And the first one is like, and there's a bit of a disconnect because the first one is Cirie as the woman who got up off the couch. And that has been a part of her story as like she perseveres, which is something I've said before. It's like, I care less about that. Like the triumph of the human spirit. It's like good for you, but it's not something that I'm like particularly interested in. And I think that like they lean so heavily on this part of Cirie, and it's like kind of the least interesting thing about her because she's fine now. Like she's okay. She's been on the show for like hundreds and however many days Cirie has played in the 4 seasons of the show, 3 of which was an incredibly deep run. Like she's fine. But at the very beginning, and that one episode of the Old Woman Tribe, I think it was older women, to be fair. Older than what? Everyone's older than someone, even like babies are older.
What was it? Older days, elder days?
Yeah, later days and
later
earlier days. Yeah, so, but at first it was like, she wasn't the survival person. She was scared of leaves, to be fair, because things could be in the leaves. It's a very legitimate fear, Cirie, I get it. And yeah, it was shocking that Tina, who was this other Tina, who was the first boot of Panama, could be the boot when she was like, this like helpful survival challenge person who had also like recently gone through a tragedy. It was like a whole really sad thing, but she was like off a lot from the group dealing with that. And so we kind of used that opportunity to be like social and like leading a real strategic vote. And then they swapped, I think it was actually between her and Melinda, old decrepit 32-year-old Melinda, who was like taken out then as like this other older woman, and then she got her feet under her and kind of was part of this Kasaya tribe, this like really interesting tribe of characters, all wild characters against like, yeah, really otherwise boring tribe. It really felt like the theme was interesting versus boring, which is something they've never really technically explored. And that brings me to like the other pillar of Cirie. There is the pillar that's scared of leaves. That got up off the couch, that, can she cross a balance beam? And it's this whole inspiring moment. Like that to me, like Cirie is bigger than that. Like the fact that that's even a part of it when she's Cirie freaking Fields, I think is like insulting, especially with like what she's become in the scope of reality TV. Because I think the other pillar for me, the second of 3 pillars, is Cirie as the master strategist. And Cirie is just so good at strategy. You talk about the 3-2-1, which kind of speaks for itself. It was a 3, a 2, and a 1 plurality vote, which I really think invented and has been like a part of strategy ever since. But I once got a cameo from Cirie, and the person had asked, thank you, Andrew, who got me that cameo several years ago, but the person asked, talk about the 3-2-1. And she, with her like trademark, like wonderful Cirie giggle, was like, I didn't even know I was doing the 3-2-1. And I think that's the thing about Cirie. It's like, it's more impressive than even like I'm going to pull the 3 and the 2 and the 1. It's like, okay, that kind of sounds like it might be more impressive to kind of be like running the math, but that's not Cirie. Cirie's talent in something like creating the 3-2-1 is that she's so socially ingrained that she knows where everyone is voting. She's so clear-headed and so good at coming up with creative strategic plans that she understands how she should rearrange that to work for her. And that's the beauty of something like the 3-2-1 is then she's like, okay, Aris is a target and Danielle is a target. What if Aris, me, and Danielle are voting out Courtney instead? In that one move, not only did she kind of invent that as a strategy, but she invented goat hunting, which we talk about all the time, which was, again, based on this really innate understanding of the jury, of if Courtney is a goat and everyone wants to sit with Courtney, where's that second seat? I can probably, Cirie could probably beat many people. She doesn't need a goat. And it's something people have employed to this day of, I'm actually going to back myself. I have a really good, I think, view with the jury. They will vote for me. I don't need a goat, and I don't want that seat to be taken. So that was an invention in and of itself. And so there was so much going on even in that season, as you said, to come back on fans versus favorites and continue to innovate strategically, not only, taking Eric's immunity necklace, which she came up with, but that whole merge, like the blind sides, she has a very, I think, creative sense of strategy. And I think we also saw a lot of this when she came back and won the Traitors. It was the culmination of all of that. It was that like insane likability that made her undetected. It was that incredible ability to lie well and strategize well to like culminate in this win that I think a lot of people felt she'd like very much been owed over decades in reality television. So those to me are like two of the 3 pillars. And the third pillar is like, yes, Cirie is always screwed over. And that's the thing I'm like most scared about probably going into Australian Survivor for her.
Yeah, something that I talked about when I watched her on Big Brother. So she plays Survivor multiple times.
Yeah, we'll
She's
talk through it.
consistently
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
She goes on, she wins the Traitors. She decides to play Big Brother with her son, Jared.
Yes.
Which was actually probably the biggest mistake that she made.
I said she has a really clear head for the right plans and stuff. Maybe that was the worst plan of all the plans. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of her worst moves in Big Brother was a move
Jared.
that was directly made to protect her son, Jared.
Yeah.
And her downfall in Big Brother can kind of be likely tied to some of his maneuverings. But I was so fascinated by the way she played Big Brother because it really confounded a lot of people. A lot of people were like, Big Brother fans who hadn't really seen her from Survivor were hearing all these things about how she's this strategic mastermind. And then they watched her on Big Brother and they were like, she's a mess. She's all over the place. She's changing her mind every 2 seconds. And what I likened it to was, and this is sort of what I was realizing as I watched her play Big Brother, is that like, sometimes you can watch a player play a game like Big Brother and they're like a chess master. They're moving the pieces around. There's a really great strategist, Vanessa Rousseau, who played Big Brother on Big Brother 17. She was not really great socially, but she was a poker player and she loved game theory. And she was all about placing the pieces in the right place, in the right position, so that people would feel like they were forced to do the move that she wanted them to make. It was all about positioning and strategy. But Cirie, when she plays chess, she doesn't care what the rules of chess are. She just moves the pieces to where she wants them to go and convinces you that it's okay. Like, that's how she played Big Brother. It wasn't necessarily like she was plotting out weeks and weeks ahead. It was more so like, what do I think is the right thing for me in this moment? And how do I make it happen? And she makes it happen every single time. She is a force. She cannot be stopped when she wants a thing. And she just makes it happen regardless of the impact, regardless of the difficulty. And that did cause some problems with her Big Brother game. But it was super impressive just to see. And that's, I think, what I'm really interested to watch for Survivor moving forward. And I think maybe one of the reasons why, like if her superpower is I can break the rules of the game and it's fine, then when the producers say, no, this is an actual rule of the game, you're not allowed to take this advantage from Sarah. She's like, well,
still disagree with that to this day, by the way. That was a mess. But anyway, one of the many, many times I'm angry at production on Cirie's behalf.
Right. But like that, I think that's such a perfect example of Cirie as a player that when she was on Game Changers,
yeah,
it
I try
was,
to forget it too. Yeah.
she like borrowed an advantage from another player, intending to essentially steal it from them.
Yeah.
And then was like, when trying to steal it from them, was caught with the fine print of this only works for the person that found it.
Oh my God, that
and
season
then
is terrible.
it was just like, well, come on. Like, how is that good TV? Like,
Yes.
how is that part of the rule set that it went down like that? But I think that's such a great example of how Cirie plays, because she just takes what she wants, and sometimes she just gets screwed over by like the actual rules.
Yes. But to be fair, most of the time she's been screwed over has not been by the rules as we know them, and we can talk about that in the third pillar. Cirie is always screwed over. I do think that what you're saying is a completely fair assessment of Cirie. She makes what she wants to happen in the moment. She has an innate sense of what should happen for her, and she can make it happen wonderfully. And I think that's her superpower. I want Eric to be vulnerable tonight, even though he has immunity. Well, maybe he should not have immunity. You know, that's a great example of that. I want Courtney to go home, even though Aris and Danielle are the two targets right now. That shows how kind of all of that happens. I think that something in Big Brother was the sense of time. I think that's what we spoke about, that she's always used to like these shorter cycles, let alone how much shorter it's about to be in AUV World. You cannot get more different from the elongated game that she just played on Big Brother. And possibly that's the reason she said yes to doing this. But it's going to be I think this will suit her, because it's going to be very like, can you be instinctive? Can you make it happen? And Cirie can, and quickly. If anything, I think in Big Brother, the discourse was that time was like her enemy, because then she could kind of go back and forth. That and like Jared were like the two things that were difficult for her, I think.
The thing in Big Brother is that every round lasts a week. And so what you might normally see on a season is there's a plan in place. Sometimes it gets interrupted by a veto competition win where somebody gets safety and they have to change their target. But there's usually like one plan, and then it's like, oh, is it going to flip? And then maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. If it does, it flips, and then they do that. If it doesn't, then like they decide against it and they stick to the original plan. When Cirie was on the cast, every time they considered flipping, they actually flipped. Like, she actually put in the work to be like, all right, everyone, we're flipping. And then an hour later, they'd be like, ooh, actually, this was a bad idea. And then she'd flip it back, which is so unheard of in how you play Big Brother, but obviously would be how it works on Survivor if you have a few hours before Tribal.
Yeah.
And so that did hurt her a bit in the game. But what was astonishing was that it didn't hurt her nearly as much as it would most players, because she was able to retain control for a ridiculous amount of time, given how she was playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like the kid in class who's like too advanced, so they act up a little bit. Like, I kind of think that that's how it was. And obviously she's with like a full newbie cast, and that's like a very different situation. I think, and to be fair, Traitors as well was this like uneven cast of like newbies and reality TV players, and she like played them all for fools, really. I think that like people wanted to discredit her based on Big Brother, and they went in, I think, really wanting to discredit her. So I was like, she can't be that good. She is that good. And the proof of that, I think, is the Traitors. Like, there's a lot of things in the Traitors that I do not think count. You know, like if you go home early, if you get murdered early, or if, especially if you're a faithful, pretty much, like if you get murdered, or, you know, you banished because, like Tony as an example, we'll talk about Tony in a different podcast, but like there was like nothing he could do there. But the agency to be a traitor early and have to conceal that and win the whole game as she did, it was such a great like amalgamation of all of her skills. She was so beloved. Like, there were these newbies who didn't know who she was, who could not believe that she could lie to them like that. Like, they were crying and they were so upset. It was like, get over it. This was Cirie's time. But yeah, I think that level of strategy and lying, it shows all of that. I even watched Snake in the Grass the other night, so I could have seen the whole Cirie cinematic universe. Fine show, I guess. But it showed, like, it said a lot about Stephanie, who's about to be on 50 with Cirie, who was the snake, spoiler alert. But Cirie as well, like she knows she has a good read. It showed like those skills. And I think it also really showed that Cirie is like wonderful television who could make anything good, which is probably like a secret fourth pillar that I want to talk about, was like Cirie is phenomenal television. And I want to talk about that because we will be seeing her on television twice in the next year. But I think in looking at this pillar of Cirie is always screwed over, let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because I want to talk about it for Big Brother, because it's very rare that Cirie doesn't have control. And that was true for like the second half. So the next like year of that Big Brother game. So we can talk about that. Cirie is rarely caught unaware in Survivor. A couple of times in Game Changers, I think the Aussie vote, certainly with the advantage of the Michaela vote, probably due to production a little bit there. So we can kind of talk about how much that's on her versus production. I don't need to talk about it. I blame production. Other people might not. That's basically where it is. And then she kind of struggled early on. Like, she's received 9 votes across 4 seasons, a stat I always love to bring out because it's insane. One of those votes was from Tina in her first tribal council. You know, as I said, she was having to kind of find her feet because she was the one who was scared of leaves in the first couple of tribal councils. After that, she's super aware. She's rarely ever blindsided. Maybe when Amanda played the idol, and I think that the story's always been that maybe Amanda had told her. So those like 2 seasons, like she knows everything that's happening. And then Heroes versus Villains, she's blindsided by a plurality, ironically, with an idol, using an idol in the 3rd tribal council. Other than that, there's so little to put at her feet for why she goes home. The first season she plays, there is a Tyler Perry idol, a God idol that can be played after the votes through final 4. So when Aris wins immunity, only Danielle and her can be voted for. It goes to fire. She loses fire. Micronesia, surprise final 3. She was in the final 3. They all thought she'd gone to the final 3 with her. We will talk about Parvati in a different podcast. That's kind of a knock against Parvati's game for me, that she had gone to the final 3 with Cirie in her mind. In the game they were all playing, Cirie's probably won that season. And it's a surprise final 2, I should say, not final 3. Surprise final 2 because of all the medivacts of that season. Heroes versus Villains, the idol plurality vote is unfortunate, but that's like the most on her. Game Changers wasn't voted out. 0 votes that entire season. Everyone had an advantage get in, she goes home. So a lot of that's really not on her. Big Brother, do you put like the Big Brother, like her having so much power in the first half and then losing all that power? How much of that do we put at Cirie's feet? And then if that's true, what will she kind of learn from that to take that into more Survivor, where it's quite different to what she's experienced than like on actual Survivor, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, having seen her on Survivor, I would say her time on Big Brother was more her fault than Survivor ever was. But there are still some significant mitigating factors, I would say. One I've already mentioned, which is sort of her son, who I won't detail all of the errors, but like really kind of made things difficult at times. Now, he was also an advantage at times. He helped get her established early on because he was aligned with the young people and ratted them out to her. So she was able to form a counter alliance. But given how much power she had in the game throughout, I don't think that was a strictly necessary thing for her to gain the control she did. The week that the house flipped against her and she lost the majority of the control that she had, she was literally tied up in a canoe, in a kayak. It was like a weird, this is a Big Brother, they do stupid things. But basically
definitely have to qualify this.
There was a punishment where she was having to like spend days out of the week like in a fake little kayak costume with one other person, meaning she couldn't privately talk game with anybody for days. And in that time, her son was really kind of running rampant and pissing off some of her allies, who finally got fed up and decided that if Jared is threatening my girlfriend in the house, then I need to flip on this alliance, which is what happened. Even then, as soon as she got free, she kind of started to spot
she got free from the kayak. Like, this is insane. Like, anyway.
And she tried to do some damage control, but it was too late at that point. The house had flipped. After that, she was on her way to like getting back in with people. She had been caught in multiple alliances, lying to everyone, but she was still managing to make some leeway. Except her son kept outing that she had been lying, and so she kept getting caught even on the rebound that she was lying. And so then she got to a position where she was just not really in a lot of power. She still held on and made a decent play toward the end. She made the final 5. And if the competitions had gone slightly differently, would have had a decent chance. She had one of the comp threats like potentially willing to take her to the end and lose to her. But unfortunately for her, the other massive thing about Big Brother 25 is that it was incredibly difficult for anybody who wasn't super physical to win any competitions. And you might say, oh, well, that's Big Brother. Survivor is going to be more physical. That's actually not the case. Survivor tends to have more equitable comps for anybody to win, even though Cirie also has trouble with those. And more importantly, competitions matter more on Big Brother. You can't really do anything without winning a competition or having influence over a person that wins a competition because they control who's eligible to be voted out. And so if, say, one person is able to win nearly every competition from the final like 9 onward, then they basically just control who leaves every single week. They're impossible to evict. And if you can't beat them, you're just stuck. And that was kind of the position Cirie was in. It was, I would like to say unprecedented, but unfortunately in the modern era tends to be starting to be the norm. But it was a very, very impossible situation for Cirie to sort of like outmaneuver because it just literally somebody else just had to win and they just didn't. They just couldn't.
Yeah.
And so she was boxed out from that point forward.
I'm having a lot of flashbacks to the second half of 2023. I feel like I spent a lot of that second half of the year being like, Jared, why? I feel like I can imagine, I remember exactly that every week. I was like, Jared, why on this recap? And yeah, so maybe, yeah, as we said, the wrong decision was playing with Jared. And her priorities were different. Like we saw this in Blood versus Water with like Sandra and Nina. Like Sandra was there for Nina. As like a parent, obviously Cirie's priority was her son much more than herself. So it's not just that it's a different reality show, like that is a completely different set of circumstances. But yeah, you mentioned the physicality of Big Brother. As someone who doesn't really watch Big Brother, is not the expert here, I just watched the raid season, but the way that I saw it at the time was like the physicality of Big Brother was offensive. Like you need to win competitions to enact strategy, to make decisions. Whereas Cirie, who has never been the most physical Survivor player, is okay with that in Survivor because of, the challenges are defensive. A great example is who she played with in her first season of Panama. Ironically, it was her demise in ways because she got boxed out by Terry having an idol, which is, I guess, like a physical mechanism part of the game, and Aris winning immunity. So it did come for her eventually at the final four when only she and Danielle could be voted for, and she lost at Fire, another physical challenge. So even in how defensive that became, by the extremes of those twists, like the God idol going through to 4, and like it going, well, and not really an extreme, but like having to make a fire, the extremes of that physicality did box her out to lose. But she still managed to play the whole game without needing to win challenges because Terry defensively was winning the challenges, every challenge, and it was fine. You voted out other people. She could still make a 3-2-1 happen without immunity. Terry is immune. Her ultimate target is immune, and it doesn't matter because she will find a way around it because offensively, she can still enact that strategy. She didn't have that in Big Brother because it's flipped, I think, physically. And so you might say, well, Australian Survivor is so physical. And it is. It's immensely physical. And I don't love that for Cirie. I'm not so worried about it though, because I feel like there's often these like, duels, and they will do that in the pre-merge. My thing is like, this is a short season. There are 14 players. It's happening probably, over a couple of weeks. I don't actually know the exact days. A couple of weeks. How long is this pre-merge going to be? We have been merging around 14, at 14 sometimes, so they should be merging now. There's 14 players. So I don't think it's like we really need the good challenge people because we're merging in weeks from now, which is usually true on Australian Survivor. And then once they're through to the merge, if anything, it might reduce her exceptional threat level into, to be fair, a very threatening cast. So the physicality of it in this very short season is like not a concern to me at all compared to obviously in Big Brother. Yeah, it really like hugely restricted her. And she just could not get through that in that second half of the season in a way that was very, very frustrating to watch.
Yeah, and I think that an important part of Cirie, if you haven't watched her play, or maybe you have watched her play but not like extensively, we're talking about her as this like strategic, player. There are two very important key things about the way she plays. One is that she's extremely cutthroat. That like she will slit your throat and have no qualms about it. The other is that you'd never really expect that from her. even when you know her as a player and as a like her reputation as a player, because there's like she has like a gravity around her. You're just drawn to her.
Sparky
You want
person.
her
Yeah,
to like you. You are
I do.
you
I
want
do.
to be brought into the
I do.
Fields family. Like I even other established players, I think, who would be on a tribe with her, I think would be like, I want to play with Cirie.
Yeah.
Like, even if she's not going to help us win challenges right now, like, that doesn't mean we have to vote her out. Like, there's other people we could vote out that are bad at challenges, surely. Like, why would we get rid of Cirie? She's just so fun and nice, and like I want to be her friend. And I think that's like easy to say, and I think a lot of top tier Survivor players have that quality to them. But like Cirie's is really like at the top. Like it is palpable. It's why she was so good on the Traitors,
Yeah.
because people were so drawn in by her that they literally just fell over themselves to give her the win. Essentially, it's a remarkable skill to have, and I think an extremely necessary one for any kind of game that she plays, that where she has to make up for a lack of physicality. That one time in Heroes versus Villains, that was just probably her worst showing ever. She basically came in with like one person that was just dedicated to being like, no, Cirie, we're not doing the Cirie thing. And so if that happens, that might be bad, but like it was also like a person that had a lot of sway at that point, which was unfortunate for her. But in other situations, she tends to have the most sway, and even in that spot, she had more sway, and it just
Wait, you mean
didn't play out.
Tom?
Yeah, right. It was
Yeah,
Tom.
I mean Tom didn't have like Tom was in the minority. Like if it, like 3 people
That's what I
voted her
mean.
out. Yeah.
Like she still had more sway than him, but
Yeah,
he
she had the
still had like
majority.
a
Yeah.
couple of allies and
And an
also
idol.
like an idol, and then it's
Yeah.
like, so even
And
in that
pull
spot, it was
JT
like,
over.
it was just like the one guy that just had it out for her, but he unfortunately had like just enough allies, just enough advantages to like overcome her in that spot. But yeah, like
Yeah.
she's very, very good. And uh, you can see that on multiple levels. And as you said, also like just phenomenal TV. She's always entertaining. Like there's a reason why she's like one of the most prolific people on this cast and on any cast at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to talk about that because I do think it's kind of controversial that she's coming back. Like, not on this. This is a perfect cast for her. This is a cast of legends. Like, she's completely at home here. I'm more like then she'll be also on 50 in like a couple of months after that, so we can talk about that as well. But yeah, the Heroes versus Villains thing was unfortunate. She had the majority. They split the vote, which was the right thing to do because Colby and Tom did have an idol, but then they pulled over JT and then they came over the top, like Operation Italy style, except before that, many, many years before that. So, yeah, it was an unfortunate one where again it wasn't a majority voting her out. 9 votes in 4 seasons is just absolutely ridiculous.
It was three votes that
3 votes
took her out.
So Tom and JT and Colby. Yeah. And then it came over the top of a 3-2. It was meant to be a 6-person alliance. I haven't watched Heroes vs Villains in a couple of years, but 6-person alliance versus 2. 3-3-2.
They split the vote.
They split the vote and then they negated the 3 with an idol. And then she went home 3-2. Unfortunate set of circumstances, but at least a legitimate way to go home, which you cannot say about any other really way that she went home. So that one is the most legitimate. But I do think it's interesting. Firstly, yeah, I mean, the Traitors, it's so interesting because she has not played Survivor in like 8 years, which is such a long time. Like if you think about like Heroes Villains, the longest layoff was 7 years. Like that was 2010. The show was like, 10 years in. We haven't seen her play Survivor for 8 years. And now she's going to play it twice. But we have gained so much knowledge through these other shows that she's played. And I do think that the Traitors shows just that at its absolute peak where, she draws people in. They love her. They don't expect it of her because she comes across and is so, so sweet. But she innately has this incredible strategic superpower that people did not know about on the Traitors, and that was their fault because there was a wealth of information, whatever.
I mean,
they didn't know she was going to be on. Some of them did, and even so, that's the crazy thing.
Got rid of them.
Yeah, it's true. It was a combination of people who just didn't know and loved her, or should have known better and didn't. And that's the Cirie charm that I think is so interesting. But in terms of like looking, yeah, I mean, how do you feel about her playing this and 50 and like coming back so much? Because for me, and I'm biased because I'm wearing a Cirie cap, but like even when I was watching Stake in the Grass the other night, I'm like, she's such good TV. Like Secret Fourth Pillar, Cirie is such good television. She is all-time confessionalist. She brings fun to everything. And she elevates the show, like any show that she's on, I think. I mean, I'm thrilled, obviously, to have her here. And even for 50, it's like there's too much to read. It's like the show will be better for having her there. And that's a very uneven cast, 50. But how do you kind of feel about the like renaissance of Cirie that we've had in the last few years and like coming back now to Survivor twice in what's going to be a period of like 8 airing months? So it's like maybe even less.
I mean, I think it's great. Like, and I obviously
but you're
I'm
the
biased
Cirie
too.
expert. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But like, I mean, my problems with 50 is that I think that they took 2 different themes for returning seasons and mushed them together, which is, I think, just like a problem. But I think you're right in the sense that like she's never let people down as a character on the show. So like I can't find an issue with her. The other thing about Cirie too is that like she's never sort of like dominated the story of any particular season on Survivor, at least. Like she is a big part of every season, but she's never been like the Tony or like Russell Hantz or whatever of a season. She's usually just there and just adds to whatever season she's on. She's the best part of Game Changers. She's
low bar, but yes.
she's
the only good part of that season, pretty much. Like I'm willing to, but then the thing, they didn't show her enough. Like I was like, use her a lot. Like I'm here for her. And even then I felt like I think she does get like the second most amount of confessionals in that season, but well, she's up the top, but it still was not nearly enough.
Yeah. And so like, it's kind of like, you know, if she dominates, that's going to be a fun season. If she doesn't, she's just going to be there and add to the season. And so I don't think there's a lot of harm in having her. She's not going to like eat up the airwaves like some other players might. And it's also like, it's just always going to be interesting to see how other players interact with her. And you know, like deal with what it's like to play with somebody like Cirie. And so maybe I'll feel differently after I watch this season, and then I'll watch 50 and I'll be like, you know, man, after she won Australia versus the world, I have to watch her also win Survivor 50. Like, I get it. Maybe there's a little too much there.
That's not too much for me. I love that. That's a wonderful timeline. I'm all in on that. If she can do what Russell thought he was doing, it's like, oh, I've secretly won, but no one knows about it. Or what David might be about to do in terms of like the Dondi of it all. That's not too much for me. For others, I understand they're like, you know, there can be too much of anything. Slight disagree, like except for this, you know.
Well, and it's also, I mean, I'm also kind of an advocate for like put these people on more shows, like give them more opportunities. You know, like I think I really like, even though I don't love the like game format of the Traitors, I really like what it's done for like the reality TV contestants because it's given them another like outlet and opportunity to build a career, which I think is a good thing. I just because like I don't, for as much as I love throwing strangers on an island, and I think that format should never go away, it is a little exploitative, and getting to see the talent essentially be paid more and given more opportunities is always a good thing in my eyes. And Cirie is, you know, top tier talent, and so you know, I love seeing her get work essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously with 50, it's the issue is the inconsistent cast and like how she doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense to have Cirie with like people from 49 and even like 48, and like it does not fit. But she fits into this cast, and even though I think she probably has had the most reality TV experience, she's with her very much people in a similar place who have played multiple different reality shows. Luke actually Survivor, Big Brother, and Traitors, so he's got the trifecta he can talk to her about. Parvati's obviously done like Dondi and Traitors and so many Survivor seasons. David has done Dondi, The Apprentice, multiple Survivor seasons. We've had people play, you know, Australian Survivor for long, long periods of time, like Shawnee 3 times. George has done The Amazing Race. Like we have these like multi-show reality TV contestants who have played hundreds of days of reality TV. This is like a legend tier for her where she's not out of place at all. She's not too big for it, and she's definitely not too small for it. And I do think from a relationship standpoint and kind of looking at the cast, firstly, Lisa will faint on sight. Like Lisa is, I know we all made a deal. If we're ever on a show with Cirie, we'll let her win because she's owed. And Izzy was kind of trying to do that, right? On Big Brother. I'm not saying Lisa will do that, but she might get close. Like Lisa will be fangirling so hard. So that's a good ally to have. She's there with Parvati. This is an important thing. Obviously, she was in 2 seasons with Parvati. Technically,
Have they
never
played
made it
together like significantly since?
No,
Because
not
they
since
were on
no.
separate tribes and heroes
Yeah,
versus
he never
villains, and
made it back
then
to her to when Parvati was on the villains tribe, and they played all of Micronesia together. Again, Parvati takes Cirie to the end, and
Mhm.
actually never betrays her. Like she doesn't even do the vote at the end where Amanda wins the challenge, and then Cirie votes for Parvati. So and they're super close. Like it's not even about Micronesia, which happened in 2008. Like they are incredibly close. And the good thing about that is that Parvati is connected to David, and David's
Mhm.
like so well connected. Like I see, we'll talk about this a lot in the pre-season podcast, but this web of like David and Luke and Sarah and Janine and Kobe is connected to Luke, and then there's Parvati connected to David and Cirie. I won't make a winner pick. I made my winner pick before they played, but like my winner pick is from that group. I think that's a very important group
It
to be in.
seems pretty powerful in a
Yeah.
group of 14 to have such a strong web of connections. And
Yeah.
also they're all like incredible players in their
Well,
own
they
right.
all the
Like
whole show, to be fair. Like it's a good level of play. How do you think she goes with like a Tony?
that well,
Because
that's
she
the
was
question,
on Game
right?
Changers with Tony, but like
Again,
she
never
wasn't.
played with him,
Like
right? He was on a
so
different tribe.
yeah. And he went home
Um
very early.
I having seen her on Big Brother, I think that she could handle Tony in small doses, but I'm not sure that they would mesh long term. Um,
Well, it's a short
so
season, so that might be
right,
perfect. She handled
maybe.
Shane in Kasaya for that entire season, and she was enjoying it. Like she was like, "This is funny. Like I'm entertained by this."
Well, the thing about Shane though is that he's kind of powerless, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So there was a guy on Big Brother named Heisem who
Awesome.
she
Yeah.
turned on pretty quickly because he was winning a lot of competitions and was kind of trying to take charge. But he was very loyal to her, and ultimately might have been a mistake to take him out as early as she did because she kind of needed his muscle. But she turned on him quickly because she was like, "You're not in charge of this alliance. I'm in charge of this alliance." And Tony likes to play his get their guard down at first, and so maybe he'll be playing kind of low and loose early on, which might work. But it's not like she doesn't know who Tony is, and I have to imagine somebody like Cirie is going to be side eyeing Tony the whole way through.
I really hope they enjoy each other. Like I'm kind
I
of
do too. I
manifesting
think
that
it'd be
like
really
they
fun to watch them
yeah.
play together.
Yeah, I don't know how that will go, but I'd love to see it go well. Like I don't want that to be
Mhm.
like a Tom v Cirie thing. I want it to be like Shane. Like, oh, we're having fun. Like this is but obviously Tony's very threatening. But again,
Did they play this after Traitors 3 aired or before?
it was after it aired, yeah. Oh
Okay.
wait, no, Traitors 3 was that this year?
It was
Yes.
January, yeah.
Oh no, then they played before. They played like
Okay.
second half of last year.
So I mean Tony could still talk about his experience on because I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
Tony on Traitors was kind of a good look for him. But if they didn't get to see it, it's just
Yeah.
they just have to take his word for it, which
Yeah. But again, if it's not going to go well with Tony and Cirie, I'm putting my money on Cirie because I think Cirie has that connection
Yeah.
to Pav, and I feel like there are like inbuilt allies. Like I think Lisa, we'll talk about Lisa on the Lisa podcast, but we'll enjoy both. But I do think Lisa playing with Cirie, like it's going to be. I think firstly, Lisa pulled off her own 3-2-1. And I think she even like mentioned Cirie on the seat. Like Lisa freaking loves Cirie. I'm excited for her. Like I feel like I'm like living there. And then I'm like, Lisa, you helped me meet Cirie. Anyway, incredibly excited that my favorite player of all time is going to be on AUV World. Very happy to have started with this, to have broken out this recap. Taran, thank you so much. By the time this comes out, Big Brother will be like imminent. Tell the people where to check out what you're doing.
Check out the Big Brother coverage. I'll assume that by the time this is going to be released, definitely post this season starting. You think?
No, when is it? July 10th.
July 10th is the premiere.
Okay, no, I think be right before that.
Like, okay, right before. Well,
yeah.
Incoming announcement from me.
Oh, yeah.
So stay tuned.
Yeah. No, this will come out right before. Big week of reality TV. When is this season of television happening? We don't know, but yeah, keep it on the feed for all of these podcasts. We know globalsurvivor.com @Shannon Gates, so you don't miss anything there. Taran, anything else for the people?
You can also find me on YouTube and Twitch, doing fun stuff over there. I did some videos on the Devil's Plan over on a Patreon, so you can check those out too. I love the Devil's Plan. Very, very fun strategic show.
We were saying this, and this is going to speak to what Cirie was talking about coming back to the island show compared to Big Brother. But like, yeah, so Big Brother's going to run through this preseason, through the season, and beyond, maybe. Like, that's a crazy thing to me. Compared to, I don't know how long the season will go for, when it starts, but I know it'll be over before Big Brother. I really feel like that, or maybe not. Anyway, clearly I know nothing. We're starting the preseason. This has been a lot of fun. I did an off-season podcast. We'll have released an off-season podcast with the Survivor fact checker, Costa, about stats, Survivor stats, and like the stats that make a winner. It's going to be really interesting. So check that out as well. And that's it. Thank you guys so much. Keep watching and listening to these pre-season podcasts for everything you need to know for Australia v World. Until then, I will see you next time. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.